Hashtag 5 nighttime habits to avoid, and 3 things you should be doing, TTS Pass. Nearly 70% of older adults report ongoing sleep problems, and most of them have no idea the real damage isn't happening during the day. It's happening in the 3 hours before bed. We looked at the habits geriatric sleep specialists flag most often in adults over 60, and the pattern that kept showing up wasn't laziness. It was routines that felt relaxing while quietly working against the body the entire time. Here's what nobody tells you. Some of the worst habits aren't the obvious ones, they're the ones that feel like self-care. A nightcap to unwind, a nap to catch up on rest, falling asleep in front of the television because it's familiar and comfortable. None of these are reckless choices. They're the habits millions of people over 60 repeat every single night because they seem harmless. One of them is linked to a measurable rise in falls and next-day confusion. Another one, according to the National Institute on Aging, can end up more disruptive to long-term sleep than the insomnia it was supposed to fix. We're counting down 5 habits to avoid, from concerning to the one most seniors are doing tonight without realizing it, and finishing with the 3 things sleep researchers actually want you doing instead. Let's get into it. Number 5, the nightcap. A glass of wine or a whiskey before bed is one of the oldest sleep habits around, and it's also one of the most misunderstood. It works for about 2 hours. Alcohol is a sedative, which means it does shorten the time it takes to fall asleep, and that's the part everyone remembers. What gets left out is what happens once those 2 hours pass. As the body metabolizes alcohol overnight, a rebound effect kicks in. Sleep turns lighter and more fragmented in the second half of the night, and REM sleep, the stage tied to memory and cognitive function, drops noticeably. For adults over 60, that rebound effect collides with 2 things already working against them: a bladder that's more sensitive at night, and a body that already spends less time in deep sleep than it did at 40. Add alcohol to that equation, and you're not adding relaxation, you're adding more trips to the bathroom and more 3 in the morning wake-ups staring at the ceiling. Here's the risk most people never connect to their nightcap. Alcohol relaxes the muscles in the throat, and for the roughly 1 in 3 older adults living with undiagnosed sleep apnea, that relaxation makes existing breathing pauses worse. The body feels like it's slept. Oxygen levels tell a different story entirely. 1 drink to unwind, and the harder your body ends up working just to stay asleep for the rest of the night. Number 4. Scrolling, streaming, or watching the news in bed. This one has crept into nearly every bedroom in the country, seniors included. The phone comes out for just a few minutes, the television stays on because the silence feels louder than the noise, and neither habit is neutral. Screens emit blue wavelength light, and that light suppresses melatonin, the hormone that signals to the brain it's time to sleep. Older adults are more sensitive to this disruption, not less, since melatonin production already declines naturally with age. Layer artificial blue light directly into the eyes right before bed, and the body is working against a hormone it's already producing less of. It isn't only the light either, it's the content. Late local news and cable news are built around urgency, conflict, and alarm, because that's exactly what keeps people watching. And taking in heated or distressing material raises cortisol, the stress hormone, right when the body should be lowering it. The Sleep Foundation and multiple geriatric sleep guides list avoiding stimulating or stressful content before bed as a core recommendation, right alongside caffeine and alcohol, because the effect on the nervous system lands in the same category, and there's a habit-forming layer underneath all of it. Falling asleep with the television or phone on trains the brain to associate the bedroom with stimulation instead of rest, and sleep specialists have a name for that. The bed becomes cued for wakefulness, not sleep. Breaking that association turns out to be one of the hardest parts of fixing chronic insomnia later on. Number 3, the healthy long nap. This is the one that surprises people, because a nap feels like the responsible choice. Tired in the afternoon, so you rest. That sounds like good judgment. The problem sits in the timing and the length, and most people get both wrong. A short nap, 20 to 30 minutes, taken before 3 p.m., genuinely restores energy without interfering with nighttime sleep, and that part isn't in dispute. What geriatric sleep guidelines warn against instead is the long afternoon nap, the ones stretching to an hour or two, or the ones taken in the early evening once energy crashes after dinner. Those naps burn off the sleep pressure that's supposed to build all day, the biological drive that makes falling asleep easy at 9 or 10 p.m. Here's the part that catches people off guard. It's a cycle, not a single bad night. A late nap happens because last night's sleep was poor. That late nap makes tonight's sleep harder to reach, and the cycle repeats itself the next afternoon. Weeks pass, and the person ends up convinced they simply don't sleep well anymore, when the real driver has been sitting in a recliner every afternoon at 4 p.m. The American Association for Geriatric Psychiatry puts it directly: eliminate naps altogether and you'll very likely sleep better at night. It's one of the simplest fixes on this entire list, and one of the least followed. Number 2. Using the bed as command central. Paying bills, watching television, scrolling through family photos, reading work emails from a son or daughter still helping manage finances. For a lot of older adults, especially those living alone, the bed becomes the one comfortable place to do everything, since it's warm, supportive, and already there. Sleep specialists call this stimulus control, and the research on it is blunt. The bed is supposed to be reserved for sleep and intimacy only. When the brain keeps experiencing the bed as a place for stress, screens, and mental activity, it stops treating the bed as a cue for sleep, and instead of climbing in and feeling automatically drowsy, the body stays alert because it's learned that being in bed doesn't reliably mean sleep is coming. This habit does something particularly damaging for people already managing insomnia. The Harvard-affiliated advice used in geriatric sleep programs is specific here. If sleep hasn't arrived within 15 to 20 minutes, get up, leave the bedroom, and do something calm in dim light until drowsiness returns. Lying in bed awake, frustrated, checking the clock, or catching up on paperwork does the opposite. It reinforces the exact association sleep specialists are trying to break. The fix isn't complicated, it's just inconvenient, which is precisely why it ranks as the second most common habit undermining sleep in adults over 60. Number 1, the heavy, late dinner and the drink that comes with it. This is the habit doing the most quiet damage, because it doesn't feel like a sleep problem, it feels like a normal evening. Dinner at 7, maybe 8, a full plate, coffee or dessert afterward. Nothing about it seems connected to the 2 a.m. wake-up that follows. Digestion slows considerably during sleep, and a large or spicy meal eaten within 2 to 3 hours of bedtime forces the digestive system to keep working while the rest of the body tries to shut down. That mismatch is a documented trigger for acid reflux and heartburn, both more common and more disruptive in older adults than in younger ones, which is exactly why geriatric sleep clinics recommend finishing the evening meal at least 3 hours before bed. Then there's the liquid: coffee after dinner, a large glass of water taken alongside evening medications, extra fluids to stay hydrated, all reasonable choices on their own. Combined, they set up the single most common complaint among older adults with sleep problems: nocturia, waking 1 or more times a night specifically to urinate. It isn't just an inconvenience either. Every wake-up resets the sleep cycle, and older adults already spend less time in deep, restorative sleep than they did decades earlier. A body interrupted 3 or 4 times a night for a bathroom trip never gets the uninterrupted stretch it needs to fully recover. The National Institute on Aging lists nocturia as one of the leading disruptors of sleep quality in people over 60, and in most cases, it traces straight back to what happened at the dinner table 2 or 3 hours earlier. That's the list: a nightcap that backfires, a screen blocking the exact hormone the body needs, a nap stealing tomorrow's sleep pressure, a bed that stopped meaning sleep to the brain, and a dinner routine setting up a 2 a.m. wake-up call. Now here's what actually works. Thing you should be doing: number 1, get outside in the morning, before noon if possible. This is the single highest leverage habit found across every major sleep study on aging, and it happens hours before bedtime. Natural daylight exposure, especially in the morning, resets the body's internal clock, the same clock responsible for producing melatonin on schedule at night. Seniors spending even 20 to 30 minutes outdoors in the morning consistently report better sleep quality and fewer nighttime awakenings than those who stay indoors, and pairing that daylight with light to moderate movement. A walk, some stretching, light housework makes the effect compound further. Vigorous exercise within 3 to 4 hours of bedtime is worth avoiding though, since it can end up stimulating rather than tiring. Thing you should be doing, number 2, build the same wind-down routine every single night. Not a strict rule, a ritual. The same order of steps, done the same way, starting about an hour before bed. Dim the lights, put the phone in another room, read a physical book, listen to calm music, or take a warm bath, since the drop in body temperature afterward genuinely helps trigger drowsiness. The specific activity matters less than the repetition, and a consistent routine tells the brain, unmistakably, that sleep is next. The same way a consistent bedtime and wake time, even on weekends, keeps the internal clock from drifting. Researchers at the National Sleep Foundation identified this consistency as one of the 2 most important sleep health factors for older adults, right alongside light exposure. Thing you should be doing, number 3, treat the bedroom like a tool, not a living room. Cool, ideally around 65 degrees. Dark, blackout curtains or an eye mask if needed. Quiet, a white noise machine or earplugs if the house tends to be loud. No television, no work, no bill paying. This isn't about spending money on a bedroom renovation. It's about protecting the one association the brain needs to make automatically, that walking into this room means sleep is coming. Every habit on the avoid list works against that association, and every habit in this section rebuilds it. Before you go, here's the one rule worth remembering if you forget everything else. Sleep problems in older adults are common, but according to every major geriatric health organization, they aren't a normal or unavoidable part of aging. If poor sleep has lasted more than a month despite fixing these habits, that's not something to push through quietly. That's worth a conversation with a doctor, because treatable conditions like sleep apnea and restless legs syndrome get misdiagnosed as just getting older far too often. Fix the evening routine first. It costs nothing. It works immediately, and for most people it's the difference between another year of exhausted mornings and actually getting the rest their body has been asking for. If someone you know is stuck in one of these 5 habits, sending them this is probably the most useful thing you can do with the next 10 seconds.